We started with 50, but many have fallen. Now we enter round 2. Welcome back to the Warframe tournament. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is llBonkll, and this is part 2 of a video I released last week. If you want to go check that one out, go ahead and click the card up there to catch up. If you're all caught up or you're fine with starting in round 2, let's jump on in. First, we cover the basics again more briefly this time. This is a tournament bracket with every Warframe included up to the point of where we are in time, so there's 50 total right now. Each has been placed into a head-to-head with one other frame, and I've been putting out community polls throughout the week to find the winners of these matchups. So the winner of the bout will be who the community voted for as the better overall frame and nothing less. It was all up to you guys, so don't get mad at me if your frame loses. And I gotta say, there's a few here that I am a little confused on outcome-wise, but we'll get there when we get there. I would also like to mention I'll be discussing each matchup in a brief summary, talking about both of the frames and why I personally believe one of them beat the other in the poll. I'll also show comments occasionally on these versus polls that I believe are important to show as to showcase the community opinions in a direct way to make sure you guys can understand why these voters picked the winner they did. For some of the polls, the comments were not as conducive to understanding their point of view, so there will be matchups where no comment is shown. Lastly, there are 2 frames that will be moving on to round 3 without a match of their own, as because of the way the bracket is set up, it must be done. Last little bit of info here before we hop into the first matchup. If you guys want to be part of future voting, as we do have a few rounds left, including the champion, the best way to see every poll is to subscribe to the channel. Also check out my Discord, Aviator Legion, down in the description below. Everyone is welcome. Also, if you'd like to join my PC clan I run, go ahead and leave your IGN in the comments down below, and I or one of my officers will send an invite on over. Now that that's all said, let's head into our very first matchup of round 2, Tennos.
Round 2, fight!
So, Cora v Rev, both very powerful frames to an extreme extent. Any endgame content is very simple to roll over with these powerhouses, but as many of you learned in part 1 of this video, there can only be one of these monsters that moves on ahead to our next round. And who might that be? Well, against my own opinion, the community has made its choice, and that choice was surprisingly Cora. Although a very strong frame, Rev was defeated here by the cat lady. Cora has a lot to offer with augments. She can be a looter like Nekros or a crit god with the accumulating whip claw. I'd like to say I would have picked Cora, but personally I think Rev is better because of his immortality and one-shot, but he did in fact not win. I'd like to say the comments on this post helped me understand why, but if I'm being honest, they didn't really help all that much. I'll pop a few on screen so you guys can see the kind of comments that were there. Yeah, not so detailed, huh? Well, that's alright. OP Luton, Crit Cat Lady will be moving on to round 3. And sadly, a very, very powerful frame in the form of Revenant has been left behind. This next one, we gotta have a discussion, people.
Round 2, fight!
Stynax v Hildryn. Guys, you're wrong. I'm sorry. Let me throw up the results here right off the bat so I can start my rant. Yeah, Hildryn lost to post-nerf Stynax. Guys, Stynax is not that good. At least, not so much better than an insanely powerful tank frame like Hildryn that the poll should have had this large of a deficit. Hildryn is so good, even with half-assed builds, you can be a shield god in Steel Path. And don't get me wrong, Sty is not bad at all. I personally find him super fun, and I love playing him. But come on guys, for real, how did the poll end up this way? You guys have to give both frames another go in actually difficult content, and when you get back, tell me again who you had an easier time with. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Enough with my opinions on this poll. It's a community choice tourney, and they have picked the new gladiatorial master of the skies to be moving on. But I would like to take a peek at the comments, because I can't be the only one that saw this as a devastating miscarriage of justice for Hildryn. First, we have a comment from Dragon Rider Sean that agrees with me that Hildryn should have won. He states that Hildryn is a great tank, and even with the most basic of mods, she can be used at any level of play. Following his comment, we got another one here from Korea. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. They mentioned that personally they hate Fortuna, and I'm with you, man. I also kind of hate getting those stupid bonds. But even with that, he still thinks Hildryn is better because of the recent Stynax changes. In my opinion, even before the Sty nerfs, I would have picked Hildryn, but nonetheless, that is a good reason to go with the shield champ. The nerfs did happen. The third comment and the last one I want to mention is from the homie Universe. He's just as confused on how Hildryn lost, talking about how Sty has barely any capability over Hildryn in almost all content. Alright, we must move on ahead to our next matchup, but I want everyone to take this as a lesson for when they're voting in the next round. Sty got nerfed, guys. Please remember that, okay? Let's move on.
Round 2. Fight.
Mag and Monkey. Although both insanely powerful frames, I'm not surprised at who won this poll. And it's not who I would have personally picked, but it's not like everyone didn't see this coming. Sadly, or not so sadly depending on your point of view, the cloud riding Monkey that has been slapped with a nerf, just like Sty, will be moving on and defeating Mag. Monkey has great power potential and insane movement speed. As well as this, he's insanely easy to pick up and learn, even to the point of hitting his skill ceiling without much practice at all, as it is a very short ceiling. Mag, on the other hand, in my opinion, is way more powerful than Wukong now and offers just so much more potential when you're going into endgame. But the problem arises when you look into ease of use. Wukong, as stated, is just so much easier to use and learn than using Mag to her full and complete potential, as she relies heavily on synergies, which for some is something they just don't feel like learning. Nonetheless, Mag did lose, and I'ma go cry for the loss of this magnetic masterful 8-ball head. Let's take a peek at a few comments for both sides of the battlefield, starting with some comments that speaks to Mag's side. First, we got Bart here with the perfect kind of comment for these polls. This is what I'm looking for, people. Exact reasons why you like the frame you pick. And as Bart states, and I quote, Mag gets my pick. Massive damage, AoE armor strip, crowd control, multiple abilities for enemy grouping, and really good survivability. Thank you, Bart. Very concise and appreciated. And so, you can all understand very clearly why Bart believes Mag should have won. I agree with him here on everything except the great survivability, only because we are comparing Wukong with Mag here, and in my opinion, Mag isn't built as well for survivability compared with the frame that can not only just straight up activate immunity frames, but can also turn into a cloud that can travel light years away from an enemy in 0.5 seconds. Murmur here is our next commenter, and he doesn't seem to be too impressed with Wukong. I think there might be some lingering hatred there, as all he states is Mag requires a brain, which is kinda true. That's pretty much what I was trying to say earlier without being as blunt, of course. But I mean, he is right. Sorry, Wukong people. But now it's your chance. Did Wukong get any comment support as the winner? Well, yes, but maybe try and actually explain next time, guys. Maybe take some pointers from Bart, because these pro Wukong comments aren't what I would say are convincing, to say the least. I'm going to say 3 things. 2 of them are actual comments on the post. 1 is something I made up. I want you guys to see and if you can guess what I made up. 1. Monkey. 2. Ew. Mag. 3. Wukong's fast. Yeah, I bet you can't figure it out, can ya? Well, Monkey and Ew Mag are both real comments. The only actual reasoning type comment, and when I say that, take it with a little grain of salt, is a comment from someone with a name I wouldn't even begin to comprehend or know how to say, and he states that after the ammo nerfs, Wukong was in a bit of a faulty state until the new AoE meta with Tonkor was found, and that helps Wukong get back into his peak condition. I took a lot of creative liberty with this comment, by the way, as you guys can see, as it more just says, "These gun bad, use gun now on Monkey." Had to read in between the lines, if you know what I mean. Come on, Wukong people, I'm disappointed. Let's go ahead and move on to our next matchup with Wukong moving to round 3, and sadly, a powerful frame like Mag being left behind. Next up, we have a community-loved frame fighting it out with the spinning cowboy.
Round 2. Fight.
Neja v Mesa. Neja earned her chops and made it through to this point, whereas Mesa was given one of the 2 free passes on to round 2 back in the first round. So, did she earn it? Well, the poll says yes, with Mesa defeating Neja and moving on to round 3. Neja has a lot going for her and a lot of fans for sure. She's got the movement, she got CC, she's got heals, she got damage, but Mesa is a spinning aimbot machine gun cowboy with a mastery over every enemy she encounters without much effort in the slightest. Personally, I'm happy Mesa won. This is probably the first poll where my opinions seem to match up with what the community thinks. She's just so good. Literally find a high point on the map towards the center, activate your 2 and your 4, and just spin to your heart's content while shredding anything that even wants to take a little peek at you around the corner. A lot of people like to say that she isn't as good when you have to be moving around, at least when you don't have her augment wasting one of your mod slots, but that's where you're wrong. All you gotta do is get a good bullet jump, and you can activate your 4 midair, shred a bunch of enemies in front of you, and deactivate it before you even hit the ground. This allows for Mesa not just to be a stationary turret frame. You'd be surprised. You can do pretty good with her when you're running around. There's one comment I'd like to show here, and it supports the Mesa side of the bout. Coming from the homie Erit, a commenter that has been super helpful in explaining these polls throughout the whole tourney so far. Shout out to you, Erit. His comment is pretty long, so I'll just try to cover his main points while showing his comment on screen for those of you that wish to read the whole thing. He explains that Neja is a great damage amp, as well as a strong contender for the best EHP, and Mesa is a super powerful turret frame. but Nezha only stands out in her class of frames because she's compared with the likes of Yoreli and Grendel, two frames that are, let's just say, better than Inaros, but you guys know how I feel about him. Whereas, in the class of turret-type frames, Mesa is competing with some powerhouses like Zaku and Protea, and still holds her own with ease. And he only goes with Mesa as his vote in the end because he just likes Yoreli and wants Nezha to fail because of jealousy. Great points for both sides, and in the end, even though he went with Mesa, his comment does show that both of these frames had the chance to come out with the win here, and they both have many applications in game. Sadly, for those of you that wanted Nezha, she didn't quite make the cut, and so Mesa is moving on to round 3. Let's move on to our next matchup, one that isn't so hard to understand the outcome of.
Round 2. Fight.
Ashe versus Chroma. Sadly, this one wasn't a very fair fight, to be honest. Ashe is just so much more versatile and powerful than Chroma. Our big elemental dragon isn't getting so much love recently. The only reason he even made it to this round was because of some lingering nostalgia for the good old days when he was an Eidolon Hunt staple. That's not to say Chroma's a bad frame, but this is a tournament, and Ashe would win easily if you placed both frames into any environment. Ashe has a huge amount going for him. He's one of, if not the best stealth frame. He's a god in Steel Path. He has a 4 that melts masses of enemies, and he's super fun to play. A lot of people forget about the little buff you get to melees when you're invis, and Ashe is able to take full advantage of this. He's an unequivocal, transparent tyrant of the star chart, and for sure deserves to beat out Chroma here and move on to round 3. No comments to mention for this one, but I don't think it's necessary. If anyone out there isn't convinced by that extremely brief explanation, I'm just gonna need you to trust me here. Ashe is 100% better overall than Chroma. And with that out of the way, let's move to a bout of frames that aren't very similar playstyle wise, but both definitely good frames.
Round 2. Fight.
Nidus v Trinity, a parasitic predator capable of scaling potential and a bunch of power, fighting it out with a support that can give your team anything they possibly need. But one must be left in the dust. And today, according to your fellow players, the frame who gets to move on and continue to have a shot at the title of champ is Nidus. I'm also pretty happy with this one. I personally don't really play Trin a lot, so if it were up to me, she probably wouldn't even stand a chance, but it wasn't, and yet Nitty Boy still took it away. He has a lot of capability when you actually look into his kit, and this is one of the few frames in the game that can not only last a very long time in some high level scaling missions, but also will be pretty much scaling along with the enemies because of how his stacks work. Nidus has a CC ability that can get some massive range. His stomp is super fun to spam, and although his 3 and 4 are not as good as the first 2 abilities in my opinion, they're a definite plus to his kit and not useless in the slightest. On the other hand, Nidus is kinda tough to build up in a mission properly if you're playing with people who just want to melt everything as soon as you see it, which does suck, but that didn't seem to harm his chances too much in the eyes of your fellow Tenno. Although Trin is very good, I will say I don't think she's the best support in the game or anything, because in my opinion that's Wisp, and because of her just being kind of basic and being up against a powerhouse like Nidus, I think she was sent on out of the tourney. Like that's gotta be it. With Nidus making his way onto round 3, no comments again for this one. Although I would have liked to see a few community opinions here, it seemed no one really felt like sharing. All good though, I'm personally glad Nitty moves on up. Now let's talk the free pass frame for the left side. Our first of the 2 frames granted a boutless go-ahead to round 3 will be the monk that has no restraint, Baruch, one of my favorite frames. The tournament bracket is the reason he moves on up so easily, unlike how in the first round I was the reason for the 2 frames that got a free pass, as Baruch did win his round 1 bout against Atlas, and got lucky with where his round 2 box ended up, getting that free pass. Nonetheless, very powerful and entertaining frame, and I would be glad to see him continue to win once we go to round 3 in the next video. But we're only halfway through round 2 here, so let's head over to the right side of the bracket and see who over there will be making their path onto round 3.
Round 2. Fight.
Starting on the right side, we got a matchup that I am so glad ended the way it did. Protea versus Frost. And as you can see, one of my top 3 favorite frames continues to shred through her opponents in the bracket and continues on to round 3. Frost, although good, is nowhere near as insanely powerful as Protea can be. Especially since the new Archon update, her turret can get even more crazy than it already was. Protea is a frame where you will have no trouble running through literally anything besides maybe Eidolons with, and she's also incredibly fun, as running around spamming your 1 and jumping is for some reason entertaining. I couldn't tell you why. Although a lackluster 4, that doesn't even put a dent in her potential, and if you're looking for a powerful frame, definitely look into running some Grainum Void for one of the best in the game. If you're having trouble getting the max score in the Void, a quick bit of info for you is just bring the Howdy Cowboy in there and any of your problems you may have had before will disappear. Just like Frost has been disappeared from the running for champ. That's not a word, is it? Whatever. Frost loses this round, and Protea obviously moves on to round 3. Eret gets featured once again with another one of his comments, giving a good explanation of his thought process, but also making me think math again. Stop doing that, Eret. Brain don't work good. He talks about Frost's issue of only really having a few good abilities, whereas Protea has a great passive on top of all of her abilities, besides the 4 being super powerful. So yeah, once again, I'll state that Protea is the winner here, and I'm kinda hoping she wins the whole thing, to be honest. Don't let me bias your voting though. That's just something I want to see. Now we have a matchup that I'm so glad didn't make me lose all hope in the community's opinions on frames. Like, if one of these frames had won the next matchup, I don't think I would have made this video.
Round 2, fight.
Decat versus Yreli. And yes, thankfully the community did not disappoint, with llBonkll easily decimating Yreli in the polls to no one's dismay. Yreli is fun and definitely not useless by any means, but she doesn't even come close to llBonkll's potential. Valkyrie has some crazy build possibilities and super fun built-in weapon. If you're looking for a fun and strong frame to run through nodes with, Valkyrie is definitely a solid choice. Her Warcry is super great, as well as her paralysis ability being very strong, and again, her 4, the claws, are just so fun. One of my favorite built-in frame weapons for sure. Along with that, she boasts the 3rd highest armor in the game, and one of the frames above her is just Valkyrie's Prime variant. So in that aspect, she's even better than 3rd best armor, if you have your hands on the Prime. If you're having trouble surviving on a different melee frame like xScal or such, and you're looking for a similar but way stronger replacement, then going for Valkyrie should be in your future. Once again, I will say that Yreli is super fun, kinda strong, has potential with a few tweaks from DE to become great, but Valkyrie is just straight up the choice here to move on to round 3, and it isn't even a debate. And I'm glad it seems you guys agreed with me on this. Not gonna mention any comments, for the obvious fact that no one disputed Valkyrie's win here. Let's go ahead and move her into round 3 of the bracket, sadly meaning Yreli is eliminated, and move on ahead to our next matchup.
Round 2, fight.
Sadly, this next one resulted in another fun and great frame being eliminated from the tourney. This matchup is Geir versus Octavia. And I think you can all guess who I was talking about. Geir, the Palpatine-esque master of Tesla coils, disappointingly is defeated in this match. As you can see here, obviously I'm not mad about this outcome, as although very good, Geir will not be able to stand next to Octavia without being overshadowed. Octavia is just way too strong. She has crazy damage and map control, she's got easy invis for you and your team, as well as just the fact that you can be lazy as shit when running her in missions. Some people think that makes her boring, but in my opinion, having a frame that can make the sometimes monotonous grind that is this game a little bit easier is a great aspect of her appeal, and is something I don't think should be hated on. Everyone just wants to chill out sometimes and not pay attention too much, and Octavia offers that to its highest potential. With the power she has, nothing will stand in your way if you're just vibing in a mission, hanging out, getting mats. And with those being my main points, I'll pop in one comment here that sums that up pretty well, with Phantom here simply stating that Octavia is his go-to Steel Path lazy frame. And with that, we'll move on ahead to the matchup of 2 absolute Giga Chad frames that both have insane power, and to be honest, I wouldn't know who I would choose if this next one was up to me.
Round 2, fight.
Wisp versus Titania. Now I'm going to show you guys the results of this poll after we talk both of these frames, and I'm going to go a little more in detail into both of the frames for this one too. The reason is because both of these are so good that they could take the whole tournament. Like, both of them easily could be the best frame, and I want to make sure it's clear why one will be moving on and one will not, as to hopefully quell some of the anger that may be caused by this one. So let's start talking with Wisp. The definitive best support on the whole game, no doubt in my mind, and why is that? Well, one simple ability. One that can carry your entire team without you even having to shoot your weapon. Wisp's Reservoirs. These are a cycle of 3 plants to be placed on the ground that grant each a differing buff, and a very strong buff. The first gives a teammate a huge amount of extra health, so bam, already increases your team's survivability tenfold. Next is the Speed Flower, granting movement speed, reload speed, fire rate all in one. Another tenfold boost to your team's damage output pretty much. And finally, an AoE Electricity Flower, although the least strong of the 3, still really good because having an AoE around you at all times that like kind of stuns and deals a little bit of damage to the enemies makes your frames just that much stronger. It's basically the cherry on top. Wisp's Will-O-Wisp ability is good and all, and so is Soulgate kinda, but the other ability I want to focus on when talking about her power is Breach Surge. This will cause enemies to release a little bit of damage when they're hit by it, and it also allows Wisp to teleport to her previously placed reservoirs, which doubles the range of the Will-O-Wisp effect. This is super helpful as it will basically kind of stagger the enemies, as well as letting you get back to your flowers almost instantaneously, just in case your buff is about to run out. This teleport is also huge for her survivability, allowing her to escape any sticky situations you might find yourself in. Alright, that's the Wisp shit. Let's talk about the Arcwing monster of capture speedruns, Titania. I want to focus on 2 of her abilities as well. These 2 are her 3rd ability, Lantern, and her 4th ability, Razor Wing. Starting with the 3, it allows for you to group up enemies and deal a huge explosion of damage to them, and that is further amped by one of the new Archon mods. This pairs with your 4, which is an ability that is the one that makes you go tiny mode and in your Arcwing, to allow for you to fly through missions, causing explosions, decimating anything along the way. During your 4, Razor Flies will also be attacking nearby enemies for even more damage. Her 4 also comes with a Warframe specific weapon known as Dex Pixie, I think, and these are not a weapon to scoff at. They have surprisingly huge damage potential and are definitely a huge draw to her whole vibe. These things are pretty fun to shoot, not to mention the immense fun factor resulting from just being able to fly around the map at Mach 10. So let's show the polls here, boys. Who out of these 2 huge players in the world of Endgame took it away and is getting closer to being crowned the champ? Well, it's Wisp, and somehow the poll is wildly different from what I was expecting, with Wisp taking it by a huge margin. She has insane potential to carry the entire team, and I guess it was just too much for Titania. And sadly, there wasn't much explanation in the comments here. I personally voted Titania, as I guess I'm more of a deal damage type player, but there's a good bit of people, I guess, that just find her power and support potential to just be too much for Titania to handle. The only comment I guess that kind of explains it is someone who said they just don't really like Arcwings too much, and I guess I can see that being a reason, but in my opinion, Arcwings are fun as hell in actual, like, within missions. I don't really care in open worlds. Another comment said this wasn't a fair matchup, and I'm gonna disagree with that. I think personally this poll should have been way closer, and I'm very surprised, and I mean very surprised by this outcome. And so, Wisp slides on into round 3, and sadly Titania has been eliminated from the running for the best Warframe. Sorry, Miss Pixia. Let's move on ahead to another hard choice matchup wise, as the next match is the Master of Speed versus the Master of the Skies.
Round 2, fight.
Gauss versus Birdbeak. I really wish it didn't come to this. I love both of these frames and find them equally powerful when really looking into differing builds and kits. On one hand, Gauss has insane movement and huge damage potential, but on the other hand, Zephyr kicks ass in any mission where you need to control an area. As well, both are just insanely fun to play. Zephyr used to be in a bad spot a long time ago, but he's made his way all the way up to the point where he's going toe to toe with, in my opinion, one of the strongest frames in the game, and he's holding his own. This poll has one of the highest number of tallied votes, and I think it shows that both of these frames have a huge fan base behind them. But only one could win the matchup, and from this poll you can see that the God of Speed and Fun is the only true winner. For a long time I was watching this poll and it was very close, but in the end Gauss pulled ahead by a little bit and took it away. There's a good bit of comments here, but not a lot specifically stating why they believe one should have won. More comments promoting their choice of frame, trying to get it ahead in the poll. I'm going to show my favorite comment to you guys that came out of this, and that comment is beautiful. Mwah, chef's kiss. And a totally real and accurate reason for this guy's vote to be cast. And that comment is, and I quote, "I may be a Gauss main, but if we're talking speed, then Zephyr." Yeah, I like it, man. Good opinion. Very good. Most accurate Zephyr opinion ever, obviously. Seems as though instead of a Gauss v Volt video, I guess I should have made a Gauss v Zephyr video. And so, Gauss being the winner, he dashes his way on to round 3, sadly leaving Zephyr floating around in round 2, eliminated from the tournament. Sorry, Zeph. Better luck next time. And so we move on to our very last matchup of round 2. One that makes me so goddamn proud of my little heavily biased community.
Round 2, fight.
Nova v Zaku. I'm so proud it didn't let me down. I may have said to stay unbiased, but I'm glad it seems that a lot of you didn't, because guess who won? It rhymes with shuck you, lady. That's right, Zaku, baby! Easy dub, best frame in the game. Bonk approved poll, easy dub, let's go. Again, I'll reiterate, Zaku is not only a meme on this channel, but I truly do believe he has a crazy strong frame. And as I've stated many times now, he has everything going for him. He's got speed, power, survival, armor strip, aesthetics, and of course those of you that stop by the stream now know that I myself am so skinny that I look like a skeleton. It all works out perfectly. Now we have to talk about the other frame. Yuck. Nova. Okay. Nova's very good, and to be honest, I wasn't sure if you guys would vote for Nova just to make me mad, because that would have been pretty funny. But yeah, not a bad frame. She has a lot going for her, especially her speed adjustment zone that can be handcrafted for whatever mission you're heading into. But Zaku easy win, and he moves on to round 3. For the comments, I have a few I'd like to show. This guy made a aha funny with a comment, "Hippity hoppity, your guns are now my property." I like it. Keep up the Zaku jokes. We will take over Warframe YouTube with Zaku memes. This next guy said Nova was his main while she was losing, so I had to reply, of course. How dare he enjoy the frame facing off with Zaku? Can't believe it. and this resulted in him mentioning the actual reason why he likes Nova better. He reiterated my previous point of Nova's just crazy versatility in any mission type. Thanks for playing along there, llBonkll. And finally, someone who had their little baby weak Nova heartbroken by this loss to Zaku. Too bad, so sad. Your frame means nothing to the true Chad Zaku enjoyers. Okay, sorry. Before we end this video, there is one more slot to fill, and that's our second free pass frame, Nyx. Not a super powerful frame and definitely needs a little love, but she was able to win her round 1 matchup against Hydroid, and that resulted in her moving into round 3 for free, even though she definitely isn't on the level of power that most of these other round 3 frames are capable of. I wouldn't be very surprised if in the next matchup she gets absolutely pummeled. So yeah, she makes it, but only because she got lucky. Sorry Nyx fans, but it's true. And that marks the end of round 2 of the Warframe tournament. If you enjoyed and you want to see more, head on down to the subscribable and maybe even hit the like button. Thank you everyone who made it to the end of the video, and if you did make it here, let me know who you think is going to be the champion of the whole thing, as we're getting closer and closer to that point. Once again, the Discord is down below. I stream sometimes, so the noti bell would be a good way to catch the streams. Look out for future polls so you guys can get your 2 cents into each matchup. Eric, if you're still here, stop making me do math, but the comments are very good for the vid, so thank you. That all being said, keep up the grinding in Warframe everyone. Play Zaku 24/7 to cure any ailment, and good night.